morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. In Zimbabwe, if there was one issue that people would say the majority of the people went to war about, the liberation war I'm talking about, it is the land issue. Blacks in Rhodesia did not own the land. They had the system called the tribal trust lands, where the land was held in trust, and the ordinary Zimbabwean, and the majority of them lived in the tribe in the rural areas, did not own that land. They could be moved willy-nilly. After independence, people thought the land was going to be redistributed evenly. Mugabe and ZANU-PF's land distribution, as much as they would want to boast it as their flagship achievement, the truth of the matter is the majority of the people in the rural areas are still living in the system of the tribal trust lands. They own nothing. The few ruling elite who have got the land, most of them have got offer letters which can be withdrawn by the party willy-nilly, and they have in many cases. Only a tiny minority actually have title deeds. And one of them is, surprise, surprise, Mugabe's own daughter. When she was having divorce papers with her husband, it turned out that the couple owned so many farms that if they were put together back to back, they covered the area equivalent of Muswatini, a whole country. And yet the regime is refusing to give title deeds to even somebody owning the size of a football pitch on which their house or hut stands. This is a serious problem. And tonight I would like to discuss this issue with Ben and Divine. We'll start with you, Divine. What is your understanding on this issue of the title deeds?
It's a disheartening situation for our people in Zimbabwe to have gone many years after independence, 40 years after Rhodes had come in, plunderized our land and took everything from us. For over hundreds of years, we lived peacefully until Rhodes came, took our land and put us under a trust and said we were not intelligent enough to hold title to the land. We did not understand the value of the land because we were nomads or we were whatever he described us as. And when we went to war, we wanted land. And when we say we were going to be given land, it wasn't rental, lease, it was ownership. To believe that the country belongs to you. It's you feel rightfully entitled. The entitlement to Zimbabwe's soil and the entitlement to feel that the land belongs to you has been slightly slipping away from us as the historical context of why we need this land and how we came to acquire this land in the general sense, having the ownership now expropriated by a government, but not yet given it rightfully back to the people, to us as title. What we have in Zimbabwe now is the big boys have land and title, and everybody else is disenfranchised from land and title. They are only given temporary holdings and waiting for those with historical, ideological understanding the importance of this land to die out. Our parents, our grandmothers, they are dying out, that the energy that it is required to fight for this land, to make sure it is equitably distributed to the children of Zimbabwe, it's going to have no fighters, because now we have the generational changes. They want to quickly change and have young people in it, but they don't understand what it takes and why we went to war and what it means on the land. to actually own title. When you have title, you have no fear. You feel like this is your child. Give an example. People who are fathers and mothers, when they say this is my child, this is my husband, there is this entitlement, this ownership, and we are lacking that in Zimbabwe. And
I'm not sure what has happened there to you, Divine. You've dropped out. We can't hear you. Ben, what is your take on this issue, the land issue?
Thank you. Yeah, I must agree with what Divine. He is given a good, historical background of the purpose of, why the liberation war was fought. I would like to start, at one point, the ruling party had the mantra. I will say it in short. It says, "Ivukuvan," meaning land back to the people. Which meant that there was going to be redistribution, fair redistribution of some sort, and that hasn't happened. Unfortunately, what we saw is the ruling elite benefiting from that redistribution. Some going away with 6, 7 farms, just like what the white farmers, some white farmers had 6, 7 white farms to their name, and this is exactly what has happened. And then fast forward, just recently, the president is outspoken and he says all land belongs to the president. ZANU-PF members, I forgot who exactly, say, all land belongs to the president. How does he end up having the land? As who? This is the question. What he didn't fight, for this land all by himself. Neither did the ZANU-PF members fight for this. It was fought by everybody. Everybody played a part, whether it was feeding the gorillas, whether it was getting sent with messages, entertaining. Everybody had a part to play. And unfortunately, we find up to today, like rightfully you said, nobody seems to be, there's no way forward on the resolution about what is going to happen with the land issue. Yes, we fast tracked it. They may say it was fast tracked, but for me, I don't see how you fast track something 20 years later and still mess about it. And there's no equality in the division of that land. So it's a very, very painful topic, especially for those that lost the people, their family members in the war to try and get this land. And at the end of the day, they still don't have anywhere to put their heads. And actually, worse off, we are now victimizing them of the little portions of land that they had.
I think to me the most important thing here to note is that, like what Divine was trying to say there, the right, the title deeds gives you the right to say, this is mine. The right to own property is just as much a right, a basic human right, as the right to a meaningful vote. In fact, in the context of Zimbabwe, the right to own land supersedes the right to a meaningful vote. Because those who do own something gives them the economic power they can flex to demand other rights. In the case of Zimbabwe, it is no secret that ZANU-PF always boasts of they've got the party strongholds in the rural areas. And the rural folk are the poorest of the poor in Zimbabwe. They own absolutely nothing. They, wherever their heart is standing, they can be told by the headman that they should move, and they will have no choice but to move. That's how vulnerable they are. And it has been used again and again by ZANU PF ruling elite and the proxies to pressurize people to attend rallies, to vote for ZANU PF, or else they'll lose the land, or else they'll be moved out of the village, and so forth. In the urban centers, that is the one area where somebody can have title deeds to the matchbox houses we see in the high density suburbs and the little land on which it stands. And this is why you find most people now have moved to urban centers, because at least there they can say, this is mine. The beauty of having that piece of land in the rural area is that you will have the confidence now saying, I can develop it. I can build a decent house. I can grow fruit trees. I can have a borehole, sink a borehole, or dig a well, build proper facilities, and know that even if I should decide that I want to move from this area, I can sell it as a going concern. But if you don't have title deeds, you cannot do so. Where your heart stands, the only thing you can say is probably that that heart is yours. But the land around it is not yours. It can be given to somebody else. Who would want to buy a house and find the only piece of land that he owns of that house is probably 5 meters away from the house? Beyond that, he's told that it's not yours. Ian Smith refused to give blacks title deeds because he did not want blacks to be economically empowered. And ZANU PF is doing exactly the same thing. They don't want the ordinary Zimbabwean to be economically empowered. And so they've used the denial of the people to have ownership of the land for political reasons, for political gain. This is at the heart of the problem in Zimbabwe when it comes to this land issue. It's a pity that the opposition have never taken this issue of the land with the seriousness and urgency that it demands. Because I don't see how 44 years after independence, we're still talking about people being denied title deeds.
When it comes to the opposition, I think, this is just a group of individuals that are not serious about anything. I mean, look, let's face the truth. 24 years down the line since they sprung up, absolutely nothing has been resolved. Absolutely nothing has moved forward. We have been just going round and round in circles. And I mean, yes, land will give, financial, social status, and all those freedoms to the people of Zimbabwe, which would actually loosen the grip of ZANU PF on especially the rural folk. I think this is one reason, or the major reason, why they would not want to let this land go, to give ownership to the people, because they know they can no longer pull people's strings. We know that, the chiefs are out there and the Sabukus, they're always saying, if you do not vote, you know, in the right spot, you risk that being taken away from you. So they're instilling the fear into the people because of the hold on land. You know, like we were saying earlier that having a lease does not necessarily mean that you have ownership of anything. It's until I decide that I've had enough of you, you should pack up and go, and then we terminate that lease. So at the end of the day, that keeps a firm grip, and you have to do what I want. You know, otherwise I will revoke it from you. So I think that is the major reason why you find that the current regime has refused to debate or to finalize this land reform program or the land distribution program, because they fear that once they do that and people actually have ownership of the land, they will not have any stronghold against them anymore. People are now free to do what they want, especially in the rural areas, like I said.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, this is the one issue that will transform, that has got the potential to politically and economically transform Zimbabwe. If the people were given title deeds, they will be able, like I said, to build decent houses in their own on the piece of land that they've been given, and that will improve the quality of their own lives. That will significantly improve the quality of their own lives. As long as you do not have the confidence that you will be able to stay where you are 5 years from now, you're only likely to be thinking of the here and now. And this is why people have not invested in decent housing for themselves. This is why you still find in the rural areas people living in hovels, mud brick houses that are not even fit for human habitation. But if they had the confidence, they were given the confidence that the piece of land on which their house is standing is their own, they can develop it. They can build a decent house. Of that, I'm convinced. In any case, financial institutions would look at giving you a loan to build a decent house if you have the title deeds. If they can say, okay, you've got the title deeds are the collateral. But if you don't have title deeds, the financial institution will never give you money. So at the present moment, if you're going to build a decent house in the rural area, you've got to finance it yourself. From foundation to the roof, to furnituring, everything. Because no financial institution will give you any loan on the basis of a house on which you do not have title deeds. This is a serious economic setback for the nation. The only people who are benefiting from it are the politicians who want to deliberately keep, particularly the rural area folk, poor for the sake of being able to manipulate and control them. So the title deeds issue has got economic as well as political ramifications. And what is so outrageous about our present situation is 44 years after independence, we have got a black government that is holding the ordinary people to ransom. It is even more urgent now because the economy is in total meltdown. Many people, unemployment in Zimbabwe has been 80% plus for the last 20 years. When there was employment opportunities, the rural people were benefiting by having their living, standard of living, subsidized by those with a regular job, be it in the mines, on the farms, or in the industries and commerce and so forth. But now, with unemployment so high, many people in the rural areas are looking at whatever they can produce. They've got to produce enough to meet all their needs. And if they could invest, have the confidence to build the potential of the land on which their house is built so that it increases their income. It may be by growing fruit trees. That will improve the situation. They could indulge in market gardening projects. But you cannot have those long-term investments on a piece of land on which you can be told that you must move. And you will have no choice, no way to challenge the demands are being made on you anyway, because you don't have the ownership of the land. This issue is at the heart of why Zimbabwe is a failed state. And I think that is one thing that most people have failed to realize, and therefore then have let not only themselves, but the whole country down. And I think we should address this issue of title deeds with the urgency that the matter demands.
Yes, I agree with you. It's a topic that is long overdue, and it's something that should have been discussed just after independence. And unfortunately, it took until the turn of 2000 for the whole program to commence, and it was done in a way that like you said, would benefit the ruling elite, or the ones that are within the command, or within the structures of the ruling elite, the regime. So it really didn't go far in terms of the general public, getting ownership. And even those that got, they did not get, like you said, the Bonam Gabes, they have title deeds. Most of everybody that got land from the redistribution have got 99-year leases, which are also subject now to I can take it away from you whenever I please. So really, at the end of the day, you don't have nothing. You may be staying there, but at the end of the day, it really does not belong to you. You have to sleep with one eye open. 1 minute, if you go against whatever the principal says, you can terminate that there, and you will find yourself homeless. And this is why I think, ZANU PF thrives on this fear that they have on people, that if we say, or if we raise our heads high, we may get to lose our the livelihood that we have on these farms and on these homesteads. So really, everybody has to just keep a level eye, and let things play out the way they play out. As long as I have my bed at night, which is rather unfair. Even according to the United Nations, everybody has the right to have a home, and ownership of land in your own country is something that should be free. I mean, this is the essence of why people went to the liberation, war, and a lot of our different relatives were lost during that war, to try and get the fulfillment of black land ownership. But unfortunately, it has not come to fulfillment, thanks to these guys that are now wanting to take advantage and keep the stronghold on people, which is rather sad.
Yes, it is rather sad. I think on the to finish the discussion there, I just want to refer to the recent elections in South Africa. I believe that ANC failure to maintain its stronghold in that country will have serious ramifications to the political system, particularly in Zimbabwe. ANC, the last 20 years, has propped up ZANU-PF politically and has allowed ZANU-PF to rig elections to stay in power. And as long as ZANU-PF was able to rig elections and stay in power, there was not going to be any meaningful change in that country. But the 29th May elections in South Africa have denied ANC, for the first time in 30 years, the majority. And yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in for his second term in office on the back of a coalition government with DA, the Democratic Alliance. And I believe the new government in South Africa is not going to prop up ZANU-PF. And I believe that South Africa has got the same problem of this land issue, which ANC had failed to address. But I think in the next 5 years, we may see a movement in that area where people are actually given title deeds to the land on which their rural home is built. And that would spur pressure on Zimbabwe to finally move, and other African countries to finally move in that direction. Because I believe that is the game changer for not only Zimbabwe, South Africa, but all of the African countries. Very, very few African countries, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, have looked into this issue of land ownership with the seriousness that the matter demands. The right to own land is as much a right as the right to life itself. Because that is the resource that can be readily be accessible to the majority of the ordinary blacks. Other properties like business and so forth, those will come with time. And probably the first step in owning those other properties is land. And in the case of Zimbabwe, the right to own land will open up the right to a meaningful vote. if the rural people had the confidence that they have got the right to stay where they are, they can have the confidence to vote for whoever they like without having to think about the consequences of such a decision. So the right to own land could open the doors for real, meaningful economic and political development in Africa and in Zimbabwe in particular. Thank you very much, Ben. I don't know whether you'd want to say your closing remarks there.
I think you have touched on the subject, and in your conclusion, land belongs to the people. This nonsense to say the land belongs to the president is nonsensical, because at the end of the day, the president is just but a civil servant who works for the people. So, I'm yet to see a worker own the shop of the owner. The owner is us. There is absolutely no way that the president can own land, and this is what they would like us to believe, that we do not own anything, and everything belongs to the top official. It's all lies. It's unfortunate that our representatives, that we have put forward, have sabotaged us so much. They have never even talked about it. It's frightening that they haven't even talked about it. Just the same way they have never talked about the rigged elections that are happening every election time, and the violence and everything. It's very, very unfortunate that they have left us to swim with the sharks. Uh, but on our own end, if we come together and reason and ask the right questions, I'm sure we can get answers. The problem is the regime would want us to remain ignorant and naive, such that they can take advantage of us. But the moment we show that no, 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 we are now wiser, they 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 will act upon whatever we are talking about. So I hope going forward, we will have this here addressed once and for all, and every Zimbabwean can have the freedom at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I'm sorry we lost Divine. We were going to discuss with him how the land ownership in America is handled and what we can learn from that. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get hold of him and discuss this land issue again with him, and see how Zimbabwe can move forward on this issue. And those who have been able to join us tonight, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll meet you again. Good night.